everyone, and welcome to the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world show made for the fans by a fan. I am your host, as always, Richard Tiemann. This is the award-winning Fan Show. That's right, everyone's a fan of something, and we've got something for every fan, especially today because it is episode 400. That's right, 4 and then 2 zeros, 400. I cannot believe it, to be honest with you, and then I feel like I say that a lot, but it's the honest truth is, September 10th, 2015, I started this thing, kind of on a dare. I mean, if you want to be real about it, a lot of people know the story. 10-year high school reunion, talking with my buddy Cameron about, how I'm not doing broadcasting or sportscasting. And he's like, how are you not an analyst on ESPN? And I really despised the guys on ESPN, with the exception of course, Stuart Scott. Rest in peace, one of the late greats, and there has never been another like him. But I love Stuart Scott, but what ESPN as a whole was becoming, it was becoming TMZ Sports. There was so much going on and to talk about, and they used to be the home of highlights. You missed a game, you wanted to see what was going on, you could tune in and you could see it, and they strayed so far away from it, it became a gossip rag, really. And so he said, why don't you try a podcast? Get your own thoughts out there. So I did. Sat down in the corner of our spare bedroom on the floor with a microphone in my hand, trembling lightly, and I recorded 35 minutes worth of I Don't Even Know Anymore. It was the Butt Fumble podcast, or the Butt Fumble show. We had shirts made up. A little while later, I had a co-host for a period of time, and then we rebranded. It became the Fan Show that you know and love now. And when I did my first episode, I recorded, I edited, and it was rough. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing at all. And, I just gave it a go. I talked about Jared Hayne. That was the Jared Hayne year. We got the Australian rugby star for the 49ers, and we had seen preseason, and it was the only time that you ever told your friends, hey, hold up, I want to see this punt. Because he was great. So we talked about that. I talked about that. What is this we stuff? I talked about it, and I got some good feedback. I got some positive feedback, and so went forth, said if I can do 50 episodes, I'll feel like I've accomplished something, because I was going to do it once a week. 52 weeks is how many in a year. I figured there would be a week or two that I would miss, but if I could do 50, I would feel accomplished, and here we are at 400. And there was a long time I was only doing once a week, but this has been a lot of fun. It really has. I've met some amazing people, and there's some amazing people I have yet to meet. Nigel Stevens, he's one of them. I haven't met him in person yet, but man, to have that kind of support from people that you haven't shook hands with really speaks volumes to, I think, what you do and how much effort and passion you put into what it is that you do. There's a lot of football players. I haven't met them, but I respect what they do out on that field. The whole Quad City Steamwheelers. I love those guys, and I haven't met a single one of them yet. And what they do out on that field is spectacular. So there's an example from my end of there, and the people that have supported the show, and we'll have one of them on later. But you will need to go ahead and click on Spreaker.com, the Fan Show, to make sure that you hear that interview with a special guest. But today it's all about you guys. I wanted to give back. There's not going to be headlines. We're just going to do Q&A. Ask me anything that you want to ask me. You guys can jump into the comments here and ask me. But let's go ahead and get to the headlines. Let's start things off. Maybe Fozzie will come back. Fozzie, where'd you go? He was here. He was ready. And the second the music started playing, he was like, and he freaked out. But yeah, we'll do the headlines thing. We'll talk about Dynamite Enterprises, and then we'll answer your guys' questions. And headlines, or this AMA session, Ask Me Anything, is brought to you by, of course, Dynamite Enterprises, where they do awesome stickers, they do hats, they do beanies, they do polos, shirts, They do everything. If it's promotional, if it's marketing material that you need, or if it's for a giveaway, for a prize, or any other kind of stuff that you need, they can do it, and they can put your logo on it. This wasn't made by Dynamite Enterprises, but I'm sure that they could do it. Okay, it's one of the best fan show souvenirs I've ever gotten on the tour. I saw that in the gift shop as they were getting ready to close, and I was like, I need that. So I got it, and I love having it here. It's never been full. But I have drinking out of it before. So those of you wondering that somebody asked me that actually. So there's your first answer to one of your first questions. Have you drinking out of the Green Bay Blizzard flask that you have, the giant one? Yes, I have. But yes, hit up Dynamite Enterprises, Ethan at dynamiteenterprises.com, and they can hook you up with fantastic stuff. I can't wait. But one thing, few things to address here before we get into it is I decided to wear a Spokane Empire shirt today because this is kind of how it all got started. This was my doorway to the Indoor Football League, which has made so many great relationships. It's been the source of so much great content, and I wouldn't trade it for the world. I really wouldn't. This was the start of many, many things. It was in the middle of my coverage of the Spokane Empire that I actually did the rebrand. Their guy, Brian Gundel, who made their logo, for their rebrand, did the Fan Show's logo. And I couldn't have been happier with it. I told him what my vision was. I says, the NFL has a shield. I want a shield. And I said, here's my colors. I'm thinking black and red. And he threw in some of that 49er gold. And I love it. I couldn't have been happier with it, with the rebrand. The name, the Fan Show, I wanted something that was going to be easy to market, something that you could stumble upon by accident. There's a lot of radio stations that go by the Fan, but I am the only The Fan Show. And it's not even F.A.N., it's F.A.N., stands for football and nonsense. And when I pitched that to him, he's like, that's brilliant. He's like, because now you can cover football and the nonsense will open you up to so many other things that you can cover that aren't football. And that's what we've done. So there's some little history for you, a little bit of background, but it's funny. I wear this because this is the doorway to indoor football coverage, but they're also the first team that ever denied me credentials. Their second season, their GM at the time, who I believe is residing in San Diego now, said that they were going to focus their efforts on mainstream media and major media that could help generate revenue. So I was no longer welcome at Spokane Empire games. And then he got a job somewhere else midway through the season, tucked tail and ran, and I was welcome back. Like, whatever, you know? So let's get to your questions. All right, we got a few here. Nigel Stevens, what's your thoughts for the upcoming IFL games? I am so excited for this weekend. I said it last night. I am stoked for this weekend. I really am. I think there's several great matchups, and I think we're really going to see a lot of teams and their potential. I know that Mike Tatum has said the Bismarck Bucks are going to turn this thing around. I'm excited to see them and what they can do. We've got a battle of the expansion teams, the Strike Force and the Sugar Skulls. Some people think that the Strike Force are a better team than the Sugar Skulls because the Sugar Skulls have only beaten teams without a single win. And the Strike Force have consistently put up, 44 points a game? And I'm not saying that, consistency is equivalent to wins, but I do believe that they're so close to something. They got Omar Cook now in the secondary. I think it's going to be really good. But this weekend will probably be one of the better weekends of indoor football, especially with the matchup Sunday between the Rattlers and the Storm. That one's going to be huge. But Green Bay and Quad City, I think, is going to be a sleeper game as far as entertainment value. I really do. I think it's going to be fantastic. I can't wait. I love that starts off week 6 tomorrow night. So tune in for that. Let's see. Philip is here. What's your thoughts on the Blizzard this season? Blizzard have a lot of potential. I think the Green Bay Blizzard is a team that, as you've seen, if they can play all 4 quarters, they will win that game. And I know that's such a cliche thing to say, but this is a team that if you turn the clock back a year, they were very close to winning so many games, and they just came across a run of bad luck. That's really all that it is bad luck when you lose these games that you're so close to. I mean, San Diego was on the wrong end of luck this last weekend. I mean, Derek Bernard is an incredible talent in the indoor game, and he threw back-to-back pick sixes? When was the last time he even threw a pick 6? It's the craziest things that happen. And the commentators were saying, are they going to bench him? Are they going to put in the other QB? He probably had a bad game. He really did, Derek Bernard. But that's the beauty of the game of football is the momentum can swing that quickly. And that's what you saw. And Green Bay, that's what they can do on the defensive side of the ball. They're a force to be reckoned with, one of the best defenses in the league, and I think Quad City is going to have their hands full. The matchup to watch that's going to be the most entertaining is the Quad City offense against the Green Bay defense. The matchup that will dictate who wins and who loses will be the Green Bay offense against the Quad City defense. So that's the one that you'll look out for, but everybody will have their popcorn ready for when Quentin Pedroza, Kevin Rudd, Carlos Wiggins, and E.J. Hilliard take the field against the trio of, you have Triggs, wow, I'm forgetting names right now. Oh, I had it right there on the tip of my tongue. But you know who I'm talking about, right? Joe Powell. And then, of course, wow. I hate it because I know exactly who I'm missing, and he's going to hate me for it. I remember the name now, but I'm not going to say it, just to see if he catches on. But that's going to be the matchup. Green Bay Blizzard had the outstanding defensive line of the week. They had 4 sacks, 4 tackles for a loss, and I think 9 tackles total. They did their job. A few other questions that I had here. Let's go ahead and check in on the Facebook side of things. Question I had from Antonio. Let's see here. What did Antonio ask me? And feel free to keep in on the comments. Ask me whatever questions you want. I'm happy to answer them for you. So Antonio asked, what's been the most memorable trip you've taken for the F.A.N show? And I know they've all been good, but also what's been the worst trip for the F.A.N show, meaning delays, lost luggage, logistics, setup. Okay. The best trip, really, I think, was my first trip it's got to be a tie. It's either Green Bay or Iowa, because I worked with their fan clubs to make sure that we could have a get-together. That was when the tour really started to take shape. Now, Green Bay, though, I had the help of this place called F.A.N, where they promote fan interactive stuff at sporting events, and I thought this was going to be the perfect pairing. This was going to be things to come for the show. And I get to Green Bay, and I meet Mitch. Couldn't have been a nicer guy. And we had this PA system we set up. I did a live show. I talked with the Hugging Grandma. Coach Chris Williams was there. He actually gave me 2 of their premium tickets for the Green Bay Lambeau Field tour, where it takes you up into the press box, which meant the world to me. He gave those to me for making the trip. They won that game. It was the last home game of the season against Salt Lake. Jack Bramswig was the player of the game. He had a hell of a game. Markel Willis, that was his last game as a member of the Blizzard. It was very emotional. But, man, that trip was quality all around. The food was great. I gained like 15 pounds. But that trip was good. It was a lot of fun. It showed me the true potential of what the F.A.N show could be. And then the worst... Oh, man, the worst I almost want to say was the second United Bowl I went to, Arizona and Sioux Falls, and it was not because of the game. It was just because there was a tailgate, but it wasn't like a fan club sanctioned tailgate, because they don't really have a fan club at Sioux Falls. I had to fly in to Omaha Airport, which everybody knows I hate Omaha's airport. I didn't have a place to stay that night. I was getting picked up the next day. So I caught a red eye. I tried to fall asleep at like 2 a.m. And there was this PA announcement that kept going off like every 7 minutes, like an odd amount of time. Every 7 minutes on the dot. And they didn't even turn the volume down when the airport was clearly closed. And so I tried to fall asleep, and I'd get right there. And then, please be aware, there is no unattended luggage in the airport. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So I was very frustrated with that. I was grumpy the next day. I was crammed in the back of the car with guys I know and love, but it was very cramped back there. And I think I had food poisoning. I got to the game and I was sweating bullets. I had a really nasty upset stomach, but that was probably the worst. Thankfully, there haven't been a whole lot of other hiccups when it comes to me traveling to different places. But yeah, best was to Green Bay. And I love my trips to Iowa. I really do. And, of course, one of the best F.A.N show moments was last year's National Arena League Championship, where the F.A.N show's Player of the Game award, the belt that I have custom made, got to be their MVP award. And that was a really special moment for me. I got to get up on stage and announce it. I think the next big thing is to have me on commentary, color or play-by-play for a whole game. I'd love to be able to do that, especially be in the booth with someone like Joe Stacy. But we'll see what happens. So that answers Tony's questions. Let's see. And Nigel says, yeah, that is a small airport. Omaha, and it's the only time I've ever gone through TSA that they've made a point to fill me up. I mean, every other airport TSA, I get through just fine. And Omaha, not once but twice, I've done the pat down, and they get in there. Like, really? Oh, and the first time it happened was at like 4 a.m. I was not a happy camper. Let's see. Mike Tatum says Sioux Falls has one of the best fan bases. You must not have connected with the right people. It was the people that I connected with was Smitty, who's I guess one of the unofficial spokespeople for Sioux Falls. Because I'm not saying that they don't have a great fan base. I know that they do. It's just that I don't. To my knowledge, there's not an official fan club, and I've talked to a few of their fans who I don't believe that there is like a fan club. Like Green Bay has the Cold Front, Iowa has the Flight Crew, Arizona has the Snake Pit. I don't know what Sioux Falls has. Now, I've only, granted, I've been there in the early phases of the fan show and its tour, but I really wanted to do something special for the United Bowl that year because I went to it the year before for the Empire, but I wasn't really doing fan show stuff. I was there more as a fan to support, the hometown boys. But Mike, whoever you know that I need to get in touch with for Sioux Falls, I'd love to. I'm always happy to go back and interact with the fans and have a good time. Adam asks, what do you think makes the fan show different from all other sports-related podcasts? Everything about it. Because we don't just talk sports and we don't talk about the headlines or the news that you can hear anywhere else. I mean, the beauty of the fan show is that I'm talking about what you guys want to talk about. That's why I leave the comments open. You guys are always welcome in the chat at Spreaker.com. But really, I wanted this to be more driven to people ask me, how do I know what questions to ask when I go and I interview a celebrity, a comedian, an athlete, or a coach? I say, I ask what I would want to know as a fan. Because we all know that sideline reporters and guys on commentary and people that do interviews, they're scripted and their production staff gives them, the bigwigs give them what they want them to ask. I don't have those restrictions. So I ask what I feel a fan would want to know. What's not common knowledge? And I try to approach it that way. So I think the fan show not only offers you a different perspective as far as the stuff that you know and love, but it also offers insight that you probably won't be able to find anywhere else. I mean, who else is covering indoor football to this degree? Who else is out there, letting you get to know players and coaches on a more personal level and things like that. So that's why I've been doing it, and that's what the goal of the fan show was to not be ESPN, was to not be TMZ Sports, and that's why I feel it's special. Let's see here. We've got Mike Tatum says Section O. Ask about them. They are now Section 110. I feel like somebody mentioned something about Section 0 or Section O, but anyway, I do have a few contacts for Sioux Falls. I will do that, and we'll see what happens. But Mike, you're in Bismarck now. We got to figure out how to get me to Bismarck for the Bucks. Let's see here. Another question that we had was, who was your inspiration to start the podcast? Which I already went over. Like I said, it was kind of started on a dare. And then, let's see. Out of all the people that you have had on the show, who is your most memorable guest or your favorite guest? There's been a few celebrity guests that I've had that have always been a lot of fun. Steve Ranazisi, who played Kevin on The League, was my first big celebrity guest, and it was the perfect fit because he played Kevin on the show The League, which is all about fantasy football. We had a great conversation. He was a good sport about it. The guys from Super Troopers, the guys who played Mac and Farva, Steve Lemmy and Kevin Heffernan, they were a whole lot of fun. And what made that one so special is that my friend who served in the Navy had just gotten back from overseas. We grew up on that movie. That was our favorite movie in high school. And so I got to bring him with me as like my special guest assistant producer person, and he got to be there for that and hang out with him. So that was a special moment for me. But other guests, I mean, there's been so many players. Mike Tatum stands out right now. Mike Tatum was a good interview. Always fun to talk to Ty Knight. And we got guys like Lorenzo Brown, who's fun to talk to. Chris Williams, Billy Back, those guys are always fun to talk to. I like people that'll loosen up, have fun, and keep it real with me, which is hard to do, all three. But if you can, my goal, if I can get them to laugh, it's a good interview. Let's see here. Jimmy says, what will it take to get you with the CIF? I don't know. Could you turn back time? Look, my issue with the CIF has nothing to do with the players. Obviously, Jimmy, you know I love you. And there's a lot of good talent in the CIF. I was just really upset because of how much I love and adore you guys as players, that whole thing had to play out the way that it did last year. Yes, I understand that the IFL swung first and drew first blood with the whole thing with Sioux Falls. But then again, you have to look at that. They said either play for us or no one. You're either going to be IFL or you're not going to play anywhere. With CIF, when it came to Bloomington in West Michigan, it was like, you're not going to play anywhere. It's not going to be with us. You're just not going to play anywhere. And you had, 25-man rosters, plus coaching staff, front office, and now you just took away all those opportunities in that whole season for them and the fans and everybody else, and it just seemed really just unnecessary to me. And I get it, you get hit, you want to hit back, but I would have just left well enough alone. And that's my issue with the CIF, because I know that a lot of the people that were involved in that are still there, and that's why the IFL continues to get teams like Quad City and Bismarck. I feel it's a better place to be, is the IFL. But Jimmy, I love you. You know I do, and I'm open to having you on the show anytime. You have been on the show, and we'll have you back. But you're awesome. You have my full support, man. Go out there and ball out. Let's see here. Another question that we had was from Bobby Brown of All-Star Bass Fishing. He hit me up on the Instagram, and his question was, with the addition of the divisions last year, which, as you know, we have 6 divisions now: sports, which is the original logo. We have tech and robotics, which will cover BattleBots, which was a big announcement today. We have wrestling, we have music, we have pop culture, and we have outdoors. And outdoors was the late and final edition. I said I'm not doing more than 6. But he says, of all the divisions, what division is your favorite, and which division do you feel has the most potential to take you to the next level? Obviously, getting the green light to go back to BattleBots for their taping for Season 4 coming up next month, especially being allowed to attend when I'm allowed to attend. They have their designated media days, but I got permission to be there for the final 3 days of taping, which will be the entire tournament and the crowning of the new champion. And so I feel incredibly honored and privileged to be there for that. And so I feel like BattleBots is some of my best content, some of my most popular content, because there's not a lot of podcasts, if any, doing what I do when it comes to BattleBots, welcoming the competitors who they don't get the pomp and circumstances like, your football or baseball players do. So they're always up for, talking about themselves. So BattleBots is a big one. Obviously, I'd like to see the football, the sports part, IFL or other, take off, because I love doing it. The Fan Show Top 10, the power rankings, all of it. It's been a lot of fun to do that, and I would really love for a league to pick up the show and let the Fan Show be their official media for things like highlights and whatnot. But until then, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, which is the best that I can do, and for a lot of people, they enjoy it, and that's the whole point. I think ideally I'd like a network that is home to everything, to pick up the show and be my network for the tour, so people can request me to come to their Comic-Con or their football game or their concert or what have you, and I'll pay me to fly out. They house me. And then the network will have its production team do all the live video and camera stuff, and they'll put it on their network, whether it be streaming it on the internet or as content on their website. But that's the dream. Is I would love to be able to do that, just like ESPN's College Game Day. I'd love to have a mobile home, a motorhome to travel and do all this fun stuff with. So I think BattleBots in sports. One of my favorite divisions, though, is the outdoors one. Outdoors, we've had a lot of fun with that. We went out last year. We're going to do a lot more with it this year, this spring and summer, so that'll be good. Nigel says, what's your thoughts about the AAF situation? We talked about that yesterday, and the AAF, I think, is going to be just fine for the rest of this season. I don't think it's quite panic button time just yet. A lot of people were saying that was just the owner trying to strong arm the NFLPA into making a deal to get their loaner players, I guess. But if you're seriously in that state, you usually don't go and make a public announcement about being in that state, if you're financially in trouble. So I think they're going to be fine for the rest of the season. If there is another season, I don't know, but I think they're going to be just fine. Hey, you. Come here. Let's talk. We got Fozzie here. Say hi, Fozzie. It's his birthday on Saturday. He turns 1 year old. I love you, big guy. He's going to be 1 year old. He's not going to be baby Fozzie anymore. He's going to be kind of adult Fozzie, aren't you? Aren't you, buddy? Talk to him. What do you want to say? You can talk. Say hi. Oh, okay. We got Fozzie here. Let's see if there's any other questions that I missed. I know that one question that I get asked a lot is... what was it? I just had it here, and I just completely forgot. One question that I have been asked a lot, though, is the inspiration for the belt. The belt happened by accident. The belt was one of those things where I went and I had a championship belt, one of their pre-made designs. Undisputed Belts had like 3 choices. They had a tight end, which we call the Gronk. They had a quarterback, and they had a running back we called the Peyton because it was number 34. But I did a fantasy league. They were the sponsors. It was the first Fan Show sponsored fantasy league, and then we sent one of those belts to the winner. And then they announced that they could do custom designs. So this was back in they've come leaps and bounds from that. So then they announced that they could now do custom designs. And I messaged them. I said, what would it take for me to get a custom one for the show? I was going to put it up on the wall and just leave it and just have it be this cool thing, as kind of a thank you from them to me for that, and the start of a hopefully long-term relationship. But then I ended up taking it with me, and the joke is that when people asked me, I went to an Empire game. That's when I wasn't credentialed media. Rob Brown, Bert, was kind enough to give me a pair of tickets to each of the first games of the first half of the season. And I went as a fan. And I went there with this belt, and people would ask, and the joke was, when they asked what's with the belt, I would say I ran out of business cards. Because I really did. I didn't have any business cards left. I had an order that went through. Love you. I'll let you go. I had an order that I placed with Vistaprint, and then I was waiting, and I thought they were supposed to be there that day, but they didn't show up, so I said, I'm going to take the belt with me. I took it with me, and then Bert, who had been giving me the tickets, he ended up having like 3 interceptions, 1 pick six, a stellar game. They won in big fashion, and he had an incredible performance. And I was just like, man, you should be wearing this, not me. So we went to the after party, and I let him wear it around, and everybody started talking, and they're just like, what's with his belt? And I was like, he had a great game. Player of the game. And then it just snowballed from there. So, I'm thankful that people recognize me for the belt. I really am. I think the belt has become kind of this centerpiece, like a calling card, like the bat signal or something along those lines, where if people don't recognize me, they recognize it. But at the same time, that's also people don't recognize me, they recognize the belt. So I haven't gotten this out there quite as much as I had hoped for people to recognize me without the belt. But then I realized that, when wrestlers travel and they go out there and they're at the airport, I don't know how many I would recognize done up in a hoodie and sweatpants, because I'm used to seeing them. I'm used to seeing wrestlers in nothing but a speedo and a smile. You know, and then they've got their belt if they're a champion. So I guess it's a compliment, the long way. But yeah, the origin of the belt is it all happened at once. It did, and it's been one of the best things to happen, because now people expect it. They get really excited about it. I've had players reach out to me or come up to me at pregame and be like, "That's mine tonight. Like, just watch number 18. You know, it's all me." And they get excited for it, and that's why I love doing it at this level, the IFL NAL level, is because they don't get a lot of that, and I'm happy to provide that for them. Even if it's just for that, or it's just this thing I made up, or whatever. I mean, that's how some of the best stuff starts. So I've been very thankful, very happy to do that, and I think that's going to do it for the Q&A. A lot of great questions. I appreciate you guys chiming in. It's been a lot of fun. I was hoping we were going to see another Adam on here. Last chance to get any questions in. I'm looking right now to see if there's any I missed. Let's see. IFL season. Thoughts on the Blizzard. Sioux Falls. Mike Tatum. Yes, Fan Show Top 10 is one of my favorite things that I've done this year. And they didn't have one last year, and I'm going to say it, they still don't have a top 10 this year. Mine's the only one. It looks like there was one more question here. Who has influenced my broadcast style? Dan Patrick. And it's funny because when I started, I didn't even know about the Dan Patrick Show. I knew Dan Patrick from ESPN, and I knew that he had a show, but I had never tuned in because it was on NBC Sports. I didn't get that channel. That's not a basic cable channel. And I think this was before he started doing podcasts. Like, podcasts have been on the rise, and I think maybe you could hear it on demand, but not through like iTunes yet. And I remember being at work when I worked at Auto Nation on my lunch break, flipping through the channels because we had a TV with the premium package on it, and I saw the Dan Patrick Show. It was a repeat because they aired it at 6 a.m. Pacific time, and then they re-air it at 3 in the afternoon. And so I sit there and I watch, and I'm like, just wow. Like, there's so many similarities between what he does with his crew and what I'm trying to do. And granted, this was, I want to say, we were more than a few episodes into the Fan Show before I realized why people were saying that, this is just like Dan Patrick Show. And so I was very honored for that comparison. I did want to clear the air and let people know that I have not tried to rip him off in any way. I mean, there's a few things that are similar. His studio is the man cave. I call mine the fan cave. And there's been a few other things that I thought he did that have been great ideas, but I've always tried to be as original as I can. But the fact that he could welcome on, a musician one day, a baseball player the next, and a comedian the next day, I was just like, man, half the time it's not even sports. It's variety. So the Fan Show is a sports variety show. And I try to steer it towards sports because I think everybody can have a lot of fun talking about their favorite sport and especially their favorite team. You get some passionate fans. You get a lot of great content out of them. But I will not limit it to that. If you want to talk about anything, really, that's what the Fan Show is for. So thank you all for tuning in this first part of the the Fan Show 400th episode. I've got a guest I've got to bring on right now, and I'm going to go and get him at the moment. And let's see here. I'm going to give him a call right now to see if he's ready. But go ahead and switch over to Spreaker.com. And if you had questions and you didn't get them in, feel free to ask me. I'll still answer them all night. That's fine. But thank you. Thank you, guys. You have been awesome. Mwah, mwah. And I hope there's another 400. 500 is going to be something special. The 5-year anniversary is going to be epic. So we will see you guys next week. 401. After the first full slate of games from the IFL, we're going to have a lot to talk about, so please tune in. And please like the page, share the page, tell your friends, invite your friends. The Fan Show is growing and growing and growing. The bigger community we get, the better, the more fun that we can have. So please like, share, invite, all that good stuff. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, And, of course, like us on Facebook and subscribe, iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio. So see you guys. Go ahead and feel free to listen to the rest of the episode with my special guest, producer Rob, a Cleveland Browns fan. And I thank you guys so much. We'll be back with more of the Fan Show right after this. You're listening to The Fan Show, your home for all things football and nonsense. My special guest tonight, Farouk. Farouk, welcome.
He's no expert, but here's the thing. Football and nonsense is what he brings. Sports talk with a twist. It's The Fan Show.
Do you know him as Kevin from the League? It is none other than very funny Steve Ranazzisi.
99% of the population doesn't know who I am, but the 1% do. They yell and scream inappropriate things at me in public.
Kyle Ray. Kyle, welcome.
And I was like, wow, I think we just saw the whole Super Bowl, Phyllis. It's like that scene in The Simpsons. Like, why rent the movie? I just saw the best part.
Funny man Brad Williams.
Yeah, I'm here. No, I flew in just for your podcast. I've heard about this podcast. I've heard it's fantastic.
It's Mac and Farva, but they are my special guests tonight. Steve Lemmy, Kevin Heffernan.
I was in Mexico for 10 weeks in a Speedo. Like, that was me going to work. I was putting on a Speedo.
Farva is the most fun to play, and it was a blast to do that again, to do Farva again.
So then the makeup artist had to put Vaseline on your body, right?
Yeah.
And then put the powdered sugar on top of that. Is your name really Richard Siemens?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and joining me is one of my favorite guests. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, the beauty of the show is that it has opened so many doors and made so many great relationships, a lot of which people I haven't even met in person. He's one of them. He's just a 5-hour drive away, but we always just miss each other, like ships passing in the day. And I say that because I know the saying is ships passing in the night, but I feel like we're passing in the day because even if we saw each other, we'd still just smile and wave and go about our business. It is producer Rob. How you doing, man?
Ty, man, my friend, I am doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. 400. Last year I had 300, and I know that 400 is kind of that one-off anniversary because now the big countdown is to episode 500, which will happen just before the show's 5-year anniversary. But there's been a lot of stuff that's happened in the last year, and of course you've been a big part of it. It's always fun to ghost call you or call you up on your birthday and see what you're doing and talk wrestling. So I figured, if there was somebody that should be a part of this milestone, it should at least be you. So I wanted to...
Well, you are absolutely right about that. So. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, and I said it. I'll say it again. I gave myself 50. I said 50 episodes if I can do that, because that's back when it was pre-recorded and it was done once a week. I had no idea what I was doing. I said if I can get through 50, I will feel accomplished, and that I did something, that I was a man of my word, that I said I would give something a try, and I gave it a try. And if it failed after that, I was like, at least I can say that I really tried. Because some people, they'll do 10 and they'll quit, and that's not enough. So I said if I can do 50, and here we are at 400, 350 later.
Remarkable. That's pretty much how I feel about my day job. It's like, I gave myself a year to do it. I basically work in IT, and it's like, if I can get through the first year, we'll figure it out from here. And I am now, 8 years into working in IT, and I'm still saying, if I could just make it through this year and figure out what the hell I'm doing, I'll be fine.
I thought you were going to mean like on a daily basis. Like you wake up, you go to work, you're like, if I can get to lunch, I'll be fine.
That's just part of the course. But yeah.
Wanted to have you on also because apparently there is a new. The Cowboys are no longer America's team. It is the Cleveland Browns who are still standing in that stupid Fox 32 elimination bracket best fan base. Oh, it's so dumb because the Cowboys got eliminated by the Titans. And a lot of people were saying it's because Eagles fans went and voted in droves for the Titans. Yeah. And the 49ers got beat out by the Colts, and I know that that's complete BS. But the Browns are still in there, which I will admit, the Browns should be. They really
Yes.
should be. And I think Seattle is one of them that should still be in there, but I think they actually got eliminated this last round. But anyway, I looked at the teams remaining, and I said the only teams that should win are either Philadelphia or the Browns at this point, and I think it would have to be one or the other before the championship, because if you guys win out, you will face Philadelphia in that bracket. But how do you feel about being the new the new hot girl in school?
Well, coming from somebody who's felt like he's been the new hot girl in school for most of his life, to have my football team be that way, it's a little odd, especially after the last 20 years of just complete and utter. I don't even think incompetence is a strong enough word, because you have to really try to be as incompetent as the Browns have been the last several years. And to see what has happened the last month, even since the start of last season with, the emergence of Baker Mayfield and everything, it's just, I have no idea what to think about this. And I think the part of the regular Browns fan in me is just waiting for the inevitable shoe to drop, as it always does. And then part of me feels like, you know what, I've suffered enough. We all Browns fans have suffered enough. Let's just roll with it and see what the hell happens.
And I think that's the best approach. I think that for all that you guys have gone through as a fan base, that this would be that time that it should just be, just embrace it. Because, yes, history would tell us that the other shoe will inevitably drop, and it's going to be back to being that's so Cleveland or Browns are going to Brown. But there's no reason to not take this as an opportunity to be passionate, hardcore, hopeful fans again, and I think that's what Cleveland needs right now. But go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, the thing with Browns fans is Browns fans, they are always hopeful. I don't think no matter how bad, you can read the local newspapers, you can read the blogs, you can read Browns Twitter, whatever it is. From the time the season ends until the first preseason game, it is nothing but unbridled, some might even say misguided optimism. It's always been that way. The big joke is the draft is the Browns Super Bowl, and it's like that is like the culmination of like, okay, this is going to be the year, and yeah, I'm going to be really what happens to a Browns draft where they don't have a first round pick and they don't need a quarterback. We do. Such a weird feeling.
It is. You guys can't draft a quarterback round one or number one overall this year, which will be weird.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. But it is funny because it did kind of play out like the movie Draft Day, which has been one of the jokes. But, man, the one thing I'm nervous about, and you may or may not share my feelings on this, is Odell Beckham Jr. because incredible talent, but I feel like he is his own worst enemy. He cannot get out of his own way. I don't know what the details are as far as his psychological well-being, but man, if you are
he's a diva wide receiver, that's what he is. Right? He's like every other diva wide receiver in the NFL.
Yeah, but even T.O. was I don't know. I feel like there's something different about him and T.O. and Moss and guys like that. But you're right. Maybe it's just because we haven't seen that type for a while that that's what we're seeing now, and it just feels new to us. Because Antonio Brown, he's flirting with that territory. He is.
I think he's well into that territory right now. I don't think there's any question that. Like I said, it's just. That's you can go back. With the exception of maybe Jerry Rice, who's about as as much of the consummate professional as anyone could be. Most stud receivers are like that. And, I don't know if that's part of the makeup or if that's just part of, being, a stud player in a glamour position. But, and hey, at the end of the day, I think I'm pretty sure that any fan of any team who has a player like that on his team would say the same thing. If he produces, I don't care.
Yeah. What's funny is that one of the things I've said to people is that the Browns are playing checkers, where Sean McVay and the Rams last year played chess. It was fast chess, but they went out and they bought themselves a championship defense. I mean, they spent a lot of money on defensive pieces and a few offensive, but I mean, they felt they had, for the most part, their offensive weapons in place. And how can you argue when you have Goff, Gurley, and then, of course, Cooper Kupp, who made great strides. But their defense, they went and paid Aaron Donald, not cheap, and then they went and added several other pieces, and it got them where they needed to go. They just didn't win. With the Browns, though, it's like they're selling hope in the form of jerseys and ticket sales by having so many things on offense. You guys are the youngest team now, without a doubt, and you guys are going to put yourselves in a Seahawks-like situation with the Legion of Boom, where your window is open, and it's going to seem like it's wide open, but it is going to quickly close because you're going to have to start paying these guys at some point, and they're not all going to come cheap. I don't know what the contract is going to look like with Odell Beckham there, especially because he was traded, but I imagine that probably saved him a little bit. But that's what you got to wonder about what they're doing with the Browns.
Well, actually, the Giants took a big chunk of that. I mean, with the last couple of years, the Giants paid for a lot of that contract. And I think I was reading the other day, they apparently have, if they need to, they have an out after this season where I think, worst case scenario, if they need to, they basically pay them this year. They lose, whatever it is, like $20 million, I think. And then they could get rid of them if they have to. And then, other than that, it's manageable. All the guaranteed money is gone after that. So that's, that's really not that bad.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you know, and of course I figured you would. You probably went and did all your homework on this after you had a 2-night bender and woke up and had some Alka-Seltzer.
I'm still on the bender. This is not a 2-night bender. I'm still on it.
Anyway, WrestleMania is right around the corner, and I'm going to do a wrestling special next week. But one thing I wanted to ask, since it is my 400th episode I've been doing Ask Me Anything, is if there's anything that you yourself wanted to ask me, if there's a favorite fan show moment that you have, and then we'll close this thing out with your thoughts on Mania.
I have to say, and because I am a raving egomaniac, that of course is going to have to be about me. But without question, my favorite moment was the surprise call on my birthday, because I was completely and totally not expecting it. I was in the middle of driving home. I think as you called, I was literally in the middle of swearing at some idiot in front of me who was driving like 10 miles an hour under the speed limit. And it was just, it surprised me. It was a great moment. And I still think about that often and laugh. So that, like I said, if it's anything, I'm a egomaniac. So which is awesome, because I forget how that even started, and I never thought it would be a tradition, but there was a few people that I've called on their birthday if their birthday happens to fall on a show day, and I'll call them. And luckily, we're still undefeated as far as calling people and them answering live on the show, and we'll wish them a happy birthday. But I don't know how some of these things happen, but some of the littlest things end up being like the biggest deals. So I'm glad that one is well received. Did you have any questions for me that you don't already know? Oh gosh, I probably do, but I would literally, I don't know if you saw my text, but I'm literally just like in the middle of putting out a work fire, and I'm like mind boggled. So what is the plan? What is the plan for show 401?
The plan for show 401, it'll be a Tuesday, and it'll be the Tuesday after a big week in the Indoor Football League, because all 10 teams will see action for the first time all season, and we'll see really great matchups. The AAF, of course, everybody's talking about if they'll even be a thing after this week, so we'll talk about that. And then, of course, it is WrestleMania week, so we'll have plenty of wrestling stuff to talk about. But I wanted, because I know that you're one of those guys who usually has some inside information, but normally you'll shoot me straight too if you don't, as far as your thoughts on it. But WrestleMania 35 is something that for a while we've kind of known how it was going to be booked, and we said, please don't screw this up.
Yeah.
And then you look at the card, and if you looked at the card, you'd be like, wow, they actually did pretty good. It's the last 3 weeks that I'm like, why are you screwing this up? Because I am so baffled by some of the decisions that they have made on a whim, that it's like, can you just not have nice things there in WWE? Like, do you have to just go and just be like, no, this is too nice. Like, we're at an 11. We need to bring this down to about a 6.
I will answer that question in 2 words. Vince McMahon.
Like, I was just so confused. Asuka losing the title, and now there's 2 titles in a title match. Nobody said if it's unifying the titles. I don't even know why you would. I don't know what's going on with the tag team titles and how they're doing that thing. And the fact that Finn Balor's first championship since his 24-hour reign as the first Universal title, he pinned Lio Rush, who wasn't the champion, and then lost it 2 weeks later on a Raw. I'm just so confused. I'm so confused.
I wish I could explain it. But like I said, Vince McMahon.
Oh man, WrestleMania is always fun, but there's a lot of things I think that hang in the balance of this WrestleMania. And I mean that. I'm sure there's been a few that we've said that, but this is what they work all 364 days towards.
Yep.
And it's just like they can't just they have to tinker, they have to touch. They're that child in the do not touch store, and they got to touch everything.
Yes, I have nothing else to add. That is exactly it.
All right, man. Well, you got WrestleMania plans? You gonna have a party?
I haven't even figured it out yet. My life the last couple months has been such a Charlie Foxtrot that I haven't had a chance to think straight. I'm probably going to sit and watch it at home at some point, but that as everything else has been lately is subject to change without notice. But I'm definitely planning on it.
All right. Well, last year I was out of town for WrestleMania. I was actually in Carolina. I hung out with one of the coaches and a few players. We watched it, and it was a lot of fun, but the wife was at home alone watching Mania, and she's like, are you going to miss Mania again? Well, I was like, I didn't miss it last year. I just wasn't with you. She's like, that's what I mean. So
Good woman.
I'm fairly confident that I will actually be in town, at least this side of the country, for Mania. So if I can get her to agree to a trip to the west side, maybe we should try and plan some big get-together.
If I can get out, my friend, I will definitely come find you.
All right, man. Well, hey, thank you for being available and for always being a good laugh and a lot of fun. I wanted to have, 300. I had some of, the big name guests that I've had, and I was like, I kind of want to do it different with 400. So I wanted to leave it up to the fans, and then, of course, welcome back some of my good friends, and one of them was you. So thank you.
I appreciate that immensely, my friend. And as always, I anytime you need me, or as we like to say, I cherish my role as the fan show booty call. So I hope to keep that up. And seriously though, dude, congratulations. I've enjoyed immensely being a part of the show, and I love you. I love the show, and I hope to continue on. I hope you continue on, and much success. And I can't wait for the 500 episode show.
All right, man. Well, hey, take care of yourself. Tell the family I said hello, and make sure that you give your belt a nice coat of wax and polish. I'm sure it's probably needs some maintenance.
I will do that, my friend.
All right, have a good night.
Talk to you soon.
And one more thank you to producer Rob, or Leveland Rob, or Rob, however you want to call it. But that's what I wanted to do with this episode. Like I said, 100 was a big deal. There's not a lot of people that remember our 100th episode. I don't even remember what I did for 200. 300 I thought was a big milestone because there's not a lot of shows I know that have reached 300. 400 is obviously the next one. 500 I think is going to be huge. And I know that, yesterday we weren't even promised today for episode 400. But I'd like to get to 500. I really would. I'd like to celebrate a 5-year anniversary of the show in 2020. But episode 500, who knows when we'll get to that. I took a whole month and a half or longer off to close out 2018. And then 2019 started off great with CGS. So very excited about what the future holds. I thank you all for your questions. Thank you all for listening to me and for being a part of Fan Nation. You guys are special, and I am eternally grateful. So remember, it's not official until it's Fan Show official, and we are officially at 400 episodes and counting. So thank you all once again. Best of luck to you and yours, Fan Nation. And remember, it's all fun and games until you butt fumble. Good night, folks.
Do you remember the time that Mark Sanchez ran into his own player's butt? That was funny sports.
Thank you for having me on the show, man. I love the Fan Show.